Hello, hi everybody, good afternoon. My name is Silvia Mazzetti. I know there are lots of people online at the moment. We're more than 1,300 people. Wow, a lot of people who I guess are very calm with the Invalsi exam. Okay, so thank you to Mondadori Education and Macmillan Education for inviting me to talk to you today. And of course, thanks to you for joining me on this webinar. As you already know, the title is Keep Calm and Approach Invalsi English Exam. Why keep calm? Because actually these exams are actually driving us up the wall because too many things are still unclear. And so we'll try together as education practitioners to try to understand what they are and how we can feel at ease in managing to help our students to perform well, if not excellently, in such exams, and also how we can help our pupils, our students, to feel at ease with the process. As you can hear, and as you read from my bio, I'm Italian. I wish it were English, but I'm Italian, so bear with me. This is my first webinar. I've never held one before, so I'll do my best, but I apologize in advance for any mispronunciation or imprecision that I might make. Okay, here's our presentation, and here are the contents I will be expanding on today. I will give you a brief background to the legislative panorama which introduced the Invalsi English exam. We'll look at the Invalsi English exam and what its aims are. And then we'll look at the aids, so the adaptive measures for our students with special educational needs. And then we'll delve into the structure of the Invalsi English exam, zooming in on every task. Actually, we won't have time to look at every single task published by the Invalsi Institute, but we will look at all the different types of tasks published by it, okay? And then at the end, feel free to ask me whatever you need to know. So if you have any doubts, I'll be happy to clear them if I'm able to. I also want to remind you that I prepared a more thorough presentation for you, so a longer one that you can download from the website in the following days. Okay, so we got lots of great things to talk about, so let's get started. There's a famous decree, legislative decree, which came into force on the 31st of May 2017, which actually confirmed our apprehensions. And it stated that along with the Invalsi Italian and mathematics exams, our students from their 5th year, so our upper secondary school students, would be taking the Invalsi English exam from this school year, so from 2018-2019. This is contained in Article 19 of this decree, and Article 13 of this decree says that this exam is a compulsory and a necessary requirement for students to be allowed to take the final state exam. So this news a few months ago caused a national stampede of teachers trying to understand what the exam would be, how it would be structured, and how to prepare our students. So this news was also the cause of a rising level of stress among teachers, because actually we have hectic careers, professional careers, and every extra task we are asked to perform can be perceived as a burden, okay, in our busy lives. So this webinar, I'm not going to talk together. I'm not going to talk on my own. I want you to help me so that we can work together. And I also hope to really give you something which can be useful right away and that you can share with your colleagues. What happened 2 months ago, though? The decree mille proroghe, which came out in September, actually stated that the Article 13 of the famous Decree 62/2017 would be deferred from this school year until the 1st of September 2019. So what does this mean? On one hand, and in theory, it means that we could have more time to prepare ourselves and also to get familiar with the exam, and also to train our students, more time to train them, to prepare them to perform well, if not excellently. But in practice, our students will be taking the Invalsi English exam anyway this year in April. So what we should do is that we should continue to build on our hard work so far and find the best way forward to prepare, to train our students for the Invalsi exam. So let's look at what it is. What is the Invalsi English exam? It's a national standardized test prepared by the Invalsi Institute. For standardized, it means that it's the same for everybody. It's computer-based. This means that our students will be conducting it online, and its correction will be centralized, objective, and unbiased. And our pupils will probably take it in spring, so before the final state exam. What's great is that its results will not affect the mark average of our students, nor will they affect the final mark of the final state exam. What is the aim of this national test? Okay, the Invalsi English test aims to verify the language skills and performance levels of our students through placement tests, which assess both the listening and reading skills of our students, as well as the use of language. And what's strange is that this exam will test our students on both level B1 and level B2. And I think that such a choice is very inclusive because, let's be honest, okay, our students are expected to reach level B2 at the end of their 5th year. But we do know that apart from certain students who have more aptitude for learning a foreign language, others find it difficult to cope with the English language, for example. And so some of them may simply reach a B1 level or even a lower level. So this exam will rate the levels of our students on not yet B1, B1 and B2. What will happen with the results? Once the exams are ready and once the results are published, the Invalsi Institute will be able to produce statistics which are as objective as the evaluation of the tasks itself. And the Invalsi Institute will be able to compare the results of all the Italian schools, the English results of all the Italian schools, and also compare these results with the levels attained by other European schools. And such a fresco will show the flaws as well as the strengths of our educational system. And this will allow our Ministry of Education, Universities and Research to intervene, to find strategies, to invest, to raise the levels of our students wherever needed. So actually, it's a great opportunity. But also remember that although, as I said before, the test is standardized, so it's the same for everybody, we do have some adaptive measures and aids for students with special educational needs. So as for students with specific learning disabilities, they can have 15 extra minutes, and also the speech synthesizer for individual listening with headphones. But if they have already been exempted from taking the exam, the English exam, or even from learning the English language, they will be exempted from taking the Invalsi exam too. Or also, they could be exempted from taking just a part of the exam. And as for students with disabilities who are supported by Law 104, so 104, they have the same adaptive measures as the students with specific learning disabilities. And once again, they can be exempted from taking the exam. But remember that if you have students with cognitive disabilities who will be taking the Invalsi exam anyway, the results of their exams won't affect the mark average of the Invalsi exam, okay? So before delving into the structure of the Invalsi English exam, I'd like to know if you're actually calm about this exam or not. Are you worried or are you calm? I'll read your answers here. Worried, calm, worried, not calm at all. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, calm, relaxed. Oh, lucky you. Okay, calm, worried. Okay. I also remind you that you can ask me questions, whatever you want, whenever you want, but I'll dedicate the last part of the webinar to answer your questions, but you can ask them, okay, not only at the end, also while I'm talking. Okay, so let's look at the structure of the Invalsi English exam. The exam is divided into two parts. We got the listening test and the reading test. The listening test includes 5 tasks. 2 are a level B1 and 3 are a level B2. There are 35 to 40 questions, and students have 60 minutes to complete the whole listening part. Remember that students with special educational needs have 75 minutes. This means a third of extra listening time for each task. As for the reading test, the number of items and the number of tasks is the same. So they got 2 tasks at level B1 and 3 tasks at level B2. There are, once again, 35 to 40 questions, but this time they have 90 minutes and not 60 minutes to complete it. So it's longer and actually requires lots of concentration. As for students with special educational needs, they will be granted 15 extra minutes. So they will have 105 minutes, okay? So before actually zooming in on every single task published by the Invalsi Institute, it's very important that we bear in mind a few things. First of all, remember that as for the listening, as well as for the reading part, the tasks cover a wide range of topics and they do not deal with a single text type. So as for the listening part, our students will listen to everyday conversation, telephone exchanges, conferences, TV news, radio news, excerpts of documentaries, short narratives, more complete passages. And as for the reading part, they will be reading instructive texts, informative texts, descriptive texts, short passages, complete texts. So actually, there are lots of different text types, and we must make sure that they're able to cope with them. Also remember 3 important things, which can be 3 major premises to get off on the right foot to begin the test. The first thing is technology. I said before that the test is computer-based, so it will be conducted online. Make sure everybody's on board with the technology. So either we use the BYOD policy, so bring your own device policy, or you take them to the ICT laboratory. They must get used to submitting their knowledge onto a screen and not only on a paper sheet. Okay, that's very important, and that's number 1. Number 2 is timing. We must get them used to working under pressure, and they must get used to monitoring their concentration and their progress. They must become aware of their learning rhythm and the time they need to complete things. And it's up to us to guide them so that they understand how to make the most of their time. So they must be able to organize their time effectively. And actually, working under pressure can be an intimidating transition at first. So we should guide them gently. If you're able, if you practice yoga, for example, you can do some breathing techniques so that they are as relaxed as possible and in the best frame of mind possible to begin the test. It's important, okay? The more relaxed they are, the better the results will be. And last thing, as I said before, the Invalsi English exam covers a wide range of topics. So our students must be able to switch from one topic to another without being puzzled, without saying, oh my gosh, what's this? Okay. So, and in order to do this, obviously this calls for mental flexibility. It's up to us to broaden our own horizons and theirs too. We must not forget that we are raising students who will be citizens of the world. So they must adopt an outward-looking perspective. Okay, they must go out of their comfort zone. We must teach them to think outside the box. This is very important, not only for school, but also for life in general. So these three, I'll recap. Technology, timing, and mental flexibility are very important. Three major premises to get off on the right foot with the Invalsi exam. Okay, it's now time to zoom in on every different type of task of the Invalsi English exam. I'll show you very briefly how the exam is structured, and then we'll look at the strategies that we can adopt with each type of task. Task number 1 is a level B1. It's a listening. It's an interview with 7 multiple choice questions with 4 options each. So only one option is correct. What do our students have to do? How should they approach this task? First of all, they should trust themselves and their competences. Okay, this is very important. This is fundamental. Then they should read the instructions carefully. Peruse each question, observe everything, do not miss any detail, because details could actually hint at the right answer. So we must not neglect them. And also, very important thing, they should study the example carefully, because the example actually provides information. It is with the information that we'll be listening to and could further clarify any doubts. So they should not neglect it at all. What happens is that they may not know all the words, okay? They may not understand everything. Well, they need to infer the meaning of the new words from the context. And also remember that the questions, as you already know, do not have the same words they will be listening to. They have been paraphrased, reinterpreted, restructured. So they need to be able to paraphrase concepts. So we could work on synonyms in class beforehand. Just make sure to strengthen their vocabulary, increase their vocabulary. That's fundamental. And also remember, at the end, do a double check, but never leave a question blank, never. Okay, now we'll skip to task 3, which is a different type of task. It's still a level B1. It's actually a speech by a woman who is going to talk about cooking. And we have to match her speech with the interviewer's question. But remember, there's one red herring, which aims to guide our listeners off track. So they have to be really stay focused. And they shouldn't only read the questions and understand them, but actually they should reflect on the aim of each question, because if they're able to reflect on the aim of each question, it will be easier for them to detect the right information once the file is played. And also it's up to them to understand when the speaker switches from one topic to another, from one subject to another of the same topic. This once again calls for mental flexibility. They have to be quick listeners, but still being concentrated. If they can, actually, they should rule out the distractor during the first listening so that they can concentrate the second listening on what they didn't grab, they weren't able to grab. And then at the end, it is very important that they check that all the questions have a logical sequence. Once again, never leave a question blank. We now skip to task 5. This is a level B2. Remember that tasks at level B2 have a faster speed, faster rhythm, and obviously they're trickier, they're more complex. This task requires some short writing. It's a table with 9 semi-open questions. Why semi-open? Because every question requires no more than 4 words. So complete answers are forbidden. No complete answers. What they have to do is that they have to peruse each question, observe it carefully, identify the specific information, and suppress irrelevant, redundant information. They have to single out only the keywords, only which is very important. So we could prepare some practice exercises on making sure that they're able to capture the keywords of particular recordings. But we also must make sure that they understand that they can actually insert some preposition or other short words in the answers, as long as they are not complete answers and as long as they do not exceed the 4 words. It is very important that they do not make spelling mistakes, although actually if they make spelling mistakes which do not interfere with the comprehension, well, they will not be counted. But actually it's better if they don't make any spelling mistake. It is also important that they are very concentrated. Deep concentration is required here because they have to listen to the keywords, write the answers, but simultaneously listening to and comprehending the next part of the listening. So they should not be too engrossed in writing because they could miss a part which can be relevant too. Now let's look at the last task for the listening part. It's still a level B2, the way we learn. This is a matching exercise. Okay, here we are. They have to match the beginnings of the sentences with their endings, but we have 2 red herrings. Why are red herrings useful? Because otherwise students could work in a mechanical way. And this is what the Invalsi Institute wants to avoid. They have to be concentrated, but they have to reason on what they do. So this is why there are some distractors. When they read the sentences, they must make sure that they understand their meaning correctly. So everything must be clear. And another very important thing is that they must observe how each sentence has been chopped and how each ending begins. So I should ask myself, okay, do I need a comparative here? Do I need a bare infinitive? How can I match it? What do I need here? So how we can help them? We can prepare some practice activities which focus on understanding how to match sentences. And once again, it is very important that they always revise grammar because here grammar is fundamental. They are asked to be quick. They're expected to be quick and focused. And at the end, they should read everything and make sure that all the sentences make sense and they are correct. So how can we, oh, sorry, I skipped. How can we help our students to successfully complete such tasks? Okay, the first secret, of course, is practice. We know that the English people say practice makes perfect. Well, this is true. In this case, practice makes perfect. It's secret number 1. The second secret is to provide them with as many listening mock tasks and mock exams as possible. We need to develop their receptive skills. And in order to do this, we should keep changing types of tasks so as to train them and so as to avoid mechanical processes. we should prepare our students to revert to background knowledge, to focus on linguistic cues and infer from the context. We should also strengthen their vocabulary, as I said before, and their grammar. We should always prepare thematic exercises and make them work on synonyms, on antonyms, make them work on the gist of a script and make them reason on what they listen to. Also, peer teaching is fundamental as long as the teacher is always involved, so that she can monitor their progress. They can work also in groups, in pairs. It's important that they self-assess their work. Once they have listened, and then they must reflect and say, okay, why was it wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So self-evaluation is actually the fundamental strategy to foster their metacognitive strategies. We've got lots of students who are not used to assessing themselves, and so they don't know where their comprehension skills or comprehension difficulties lie, because they're not used to assessing themselves. Well, actually, it is very important to reflect. And then remember that a highly skilled listener will always employ both top-down and bottom-up strategies. Top-down is a kind of strategy which listens for the general meaning, and it reverts to background information, while bottom-up strategies focuses on listening for details. Well, a highly skilled listener employs both strategies. Also, another important thing that you could do is you could train them to be able to listen to C1 texts and also C2 texts. Okay, it's okay. They need to get used to higher levels. Okay, and also make them listen to different accents, and even foreign people talking in English, but make them able to understand lots of different things, lots of different accents, so the nuances of meaning, the nuances of dialects. Every detail is fundamental, and insist. And then, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think that no matter how a student can be competent, can be good at English, if he or she doesn't train, and for example, he takes the Invalsi English exam without rehearsing, well, I think that his or her performance may be disappointing, and the results may not actually attest to his actual proficiency, and this would be a pity. So once again, practice makes perfect. Do not forget it. Now it's time to look at the reading part. So we'll start with photographers. So how I became a wildlife photographer. This is task 1, level B1. Very important. Before starting reading the text, it's fundamental that our students ponder on the title, and also read the instruction thoroughly, but also look at the structure of the text. Look at here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. So it's not presented, the text is not presented as a flow, and as we have different paragraphs, students can actually orient themselves better, more easily, and they can better single out the information. This is good. But they should look at these things, okay? Never take things for granted. So this text has 7 multiple choice questions. Once again, 4 options, only 1 is correct. And once they have pondered on the title and read the instructions thoroughly and looked at the structure, they could adopt 2 different approaches. If they are good at English and they are fast readers, what they could do is flick through the text, read it quickly in order to get the gist, so the general meaning of the text, and then read each question, focus on the keywords, scan the text to find the passage which contains the information, the corresponding information, then read through the options, scan the passage again, rule out what is clearly incorrect, and focus on the passage in order to find the correct option. And this is approach number one. But if we have students who are not fast readers and they are particularly slow, they don't need to read the whole text. They can simply pore over each question, focus on the keywords, and then scan the passage, find the information that they need, then read through the options and decide which one is the best solution. Obviously, we could do some practice exercises on inference because they may not know all the meaning of the words, so they could infer the meaning of unknown words from the context. And also, it is very important that they reason on what they read and on the purpose of the text, because I think we've got lots of students who are not used to reasoning anymore. They just answer questions without reasoning. And if you ask them a question, they say, I don't know. And I ask them, but how can you know? How can't you know this thing? Did you read the text? Yes, but I wasn't actually focused. I say, okay. So they must reason on what they read and also on the purpose of the text. But it's also clear that if they have difficulties in English, in Italian, if they have difficulties in understanding texts in Italian, on reflecting on the aims of text, well, these gaps, these difficulties may be echoed in English too. But we can work on them. We must actually teach them to develop their critical thinking. This is critical thinking too. This is authentic learning when they reason on things. And then, of course, the questions as well as the options do not contain the same words that are contained in the text. So they are expected to interpret and paraphrase both the questions and the answers. And this, once again, calls for mental flexibility. Now, we look at task 2, once again, a level B1. This task requires some short writing. We've got a text with 9 semi-open questions, so 4 words in each answer. So no complete answers, no complements, and so on and so forth. They don't actually need to read the whole text, so they can just flick through the text, read one question at a time, scan the text until they find the passage they need, the part they need, which contains the solution, and then answer the question. They're expected to be flexible, vocabulary-wise, because once again, the questions do not contain the same words as in the text. And another very important thing, when they read the questions, they should reflect on the interrogative pronouns of the questions. So if the question asks what cities, it's obvious that they have to scan the text and look for the names of cities. If the question is when, it requires an answer with specific time. You may say, I'm reinventing the wheel, I know, but actually we must never take things for granted with our students. And then they are expected to contextualize concepts. Why? Because they may find intelligent questions which ask, what is the meaning of? So this obliges them to go back to the text, read through it, find the word, and then read before and after the word in order to understand, okay, what is this word? What does it mean? They need to contextualize concepts. And they are expected to be quick readers and be conscious of the time throughout. As for tasks at level B1, actually, I would spend about 10-13 minutes. I would spend more time on tasks at level B2 because they are more difficult. And so they require more concentration. Remember, the trickier the texts are, the more concentration they require. So it's now time to look at task 5, which is a reading at level B2. Here we have paragraphs which need a heading. So it's a matching exercise once again, and we've got 2 extra headings in order to avoid mechanical processes. Here they could actually use a draft paper sheet and jot down maybe the keywords of each paragraph. Here they are expected to work very in a very accurate way, because they have to read the text, but they don't even have to read the whole text, but they need to peruse each paragraph. They need to find the keywords. They could even summarize the paragraph, because if they summarize each paragraph, that well, it would be easier for them to detect the right heading then. What you could do in class beforehand, some fun preparation would be one with magazine articles in which you divide the headlines and the articles, and you ask them to work even in teams and match the headlines and the articles. And once they've done that, they must be able to dissect why they are correct or incorrect. And that's fun, because I did it, and my pupils had lots of fun. Also, while they are reading each paragraph, they must get used to asking themselves questions. So, for example, okay, what is this paragraph about? What is the main subject? Why does the author expand on these details? What is the message of the paragraph? It is very important that they ask these questions, and that you could do some training in class focused based on these questions too. And also a very important thing, they shouldn't be taken in by identical words. It is obvious that if a heading shares the same word with a paragraph, it's probably not the correct one. Okay, so they have to be quick. They have to be bright on this. They have to be shrewd. I mean, they have to read it carefully and reason. Once they have detected the 2 extra headings, so the 2 distractors, they must be able to understand why they are actually incorrect. So they should ask themselves questions. Okay, did I do it right? Why? Why is it actually incorrect? Am I sure about it? Okay. And now let's look at the last task number 6, still a level B2. It's a gapped text. It has 10 blanks and 2 red herrings, so 2 distractors. They can skim the text. They can just read it quickly, or they can also scan the parts where there's the blank, because what they are expected to do here is, okay, understand the general meaning, but then they have to carefully observe each gap and ask once again question. Is the gap preceded by a subject? Do I need a verb here? Do I need a preposition? Do I need a comparative? So let's observe the gap, what's before and what's behind, what's after the gap. Not behind, after. So also reflect on the use of language, and here they're expected to summon their linguistic knowledge. And once they have completed it, make sure that the text is correct and that it flows smoothly, and that the 2 red herrings that they detected are actually the real odd ones out. As for the 3 tasks at level B2 that I will be completing, I would spend about 13 minutes for each task, as long as they are really focused on what they are doing. So actually, there is enough time to do things. Okay, how can we help our students to successfully complete such tasks? As I said before, and as you already know, the Invalsi English exam covers a wide range of topics. What we should do here is build their reading confidence. This means that they shouldn't go blank before a text which is too difficult, but they should call on those skills and knowledge they have been storing through the years, and to be able to sort out things which are tough and unclear. Make them listen, make them read as many articles as possible, which range, whose topics range a lot. And they must always adopt a reflective and open-minded attitude. They should also they should also get used to examining language and notice linguistic registers. And if they work, whether they work in pairs, in teams, or on their own, they should activate their metacognitive strategies to monitor their comprehension. They must be in control of what they are doing, of what they are reading, and also monitor their progress. Our students are not aware of their difficulties because they are not used to assessing themselves. And self-evaluation is fundamental. Ask questions while you're during your lessons. Did you understand that? Was it clear? Why? Get them used to asking why. Why did I do that? Is it correct? And also train them to make predictions. Okay, there's a chunk of text missing. What is it about? They should ask questions. Okay, there's a chunk of text missing. Okay, before it dealt with this. Now, how could the story continue? Okay, this once again calls for flexibility. And then work on their vocabulary. So strengthen their vocabulary. And I skipped one point, which is very important. I'm not saying that you should dedicate entire lessons to grammar, but do not neglect grammar in the final 3-year period of upper secondary school, because grammatical accuracy remains one of the mainstays of mastering a foreign language. It's fundamental. If you don't know grammar, well, you won't be able to master a language properly. And also, you could also organize teamwork, like groups, in which you give the same task, the same text to everybody, to each group, and then you ask each group to do different things. And then at the end, you could organize class discussions in which they have to ponder on what they did and understand why they did in that way, and understand what was incorrect and why, once again. Also, they should get used to rephrasing concepts. And so the monolingual dictionary is our hero here, because this helps them to be mentally flexible. The monolingual dictionary is a fantastic tool to help them rephrase concepts and gist. Okay, I think we're almost over. And a very important thing I'd like you to remember, I give you some strategies that you can apply, that you can use with your students. But remember that all our students have different learning strategies and learning styles. And we should be able to incorporate all the different styles in one lesson. So remember that, okay, we're working in a class, but we're also working with individual members. So we should be able to fuel both the class and the individual members. And I like to conclude with a very nice sentence by a famous Italian writer who says, "You reap what you sow, as long as you take care of what you sowed." Okay. So thanks for dedicating your eyes, ears, and heart to my webinar. Now I look at your questions so that I can be maybe a bit useful. Okay. Oh, lots of questions. Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. I don't think I will be able to answer all of them, but I'll try to. So the results of the Invalsi English exam will not affect the mark average nor the admission mark to be admitted to the final exam. So how can we motivate our lazy students to lean over backwards? Okay, this is a great question. Okay, so how can we motivate our students to perform well if they know that actually those results won't affect their mark average? It's a very good question, so thank you. Well, first thing, I think that what we should do always, not only for the Invalsi English exam, but in general, is show that you care. Show that you care, show that you believe in your students and in their skills. If you don't care, well, you can't expect the others to care either. And so this is first thing. Persist in motivating them, believe in them, believe in their abilities, and keep telling them you're great, you're doing great, come on. Motivation is fundamental. Then another thing that you could do is, if the results of the Invalsi English exam are ready on time, and if they're ready before June, you may say that although they will not actually affect their mark average, but you could take into account those results anyway. So in June, if you're unsure about a 6 or a 7 in the school report, you may say, well, I'll look at your performance with the Invalsi exam. Then also consider that the Invalsi English exam actually is a great opportunity, not only for a self-check, but also as a preparation for the university entry tests. It's fundamental. Wow, we've got a preparation which is free and will clarify my level. This is fantastic. And also, the Invalsi English exam could be used as a training for other international exams like PAT, FIRST, even IELTS. So it is a good opportunity. And then also you should remind them that the results will be taken into account anyway, because some statistics will be produced, and their results will be compared with other Italian schools and even with other European schools. So actually, oh my gosh, I mean, they will be saying, okay, their results actually matter. And another thing that you could do, you could organize school competitions. So how about working with your colleagues together? You could organize monthly competitions in which all different classes from the 5th year compete. You give them a mock exam and they have to take it. And then you compare the results, and then you monitor their progress. So you could even start right now, and monitor their progress until April. But remember, if you do this, if you organize class competitions or school competition, remember that I do believe in this. Unity is a strength. So it must be fair competition, okay? Also among colleagues. So work with your colleagues. It can't be a bloody competition with hatred and envy and say, oh no, that colleague is not good as me, so I won't work with her. No, you must work together, okay? Because we have to think about our pupils. And so, yes, definitely unity is strength. Another question. Why should our students with special educational needs be given a standard test after we spent 5 years providing them with personalized tests and adaptive measures? Okay, so why should we give our SEN students a standard given after we probably prepared a personalized test, very simple test, during these 5 years? You're right. This is a human worry. Actually, I thought the same a few months ago, actually last year, because my kids already took the Invalsi English exam last year. But then it took me a while to understand that such a choice by the Invalsi Institute is actually right, because, and it's an inclusive decision choice. As my head teacher always says, remember that all students have special needs. So all our students are special. So all our students have different learning styles, and they need something in particular, different from all the other students. So what I think we should do here is that our job is fantastic, and we are asked to take all our students to the same destination. Let me use a metaphor. If there's a race, if there's a competition, and there are lots of runners, and one competitor runs on foot, the other runs with crutches, another runner uses a wheelchair, another one uses artificial limbs, but what matters is the final destination. So everybody will be able to cross the same finishing line. And that's what we are expected to do. I'm not saying it's easy, it's tough, but I think that through our adaptive measures and personalized tasks that we have been using for 5 years, maybe we have been able to take these students who are, forgive me the expression, more special than others, to the same finishing line as all the others. So this is the key. And then actually, okay, the most important thing is that they take the exam, they try. This is the most important thing. Don't get in a flap because maybe their marks are very, very low. The most important thing is that they enjoy this exam and always have fun, always, even in class with your pupils. Okay, another question. What are the main differences in terms of aims between B1 and B2 tasks, given that the types of exercises are not so different? Okay, well, in order to answer this question, we should refer to the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, because there you can find descriptors which are very detailed and tell you what students are expected to possess to master a level B1 and what they are expected to possess to master a level B2. But this question is actually very important because in the presentation that I prepared for you, and as I said before, is more thorough than this presentation that I showed you a few minutes ago, you will also find the differences between B1 tasks and B2 tasks level-wise. Okay, so I think that when you download the presentation, you will be happy. You will get some more tips for all the different official tasks. Will the task be computer-based in every school? It should be computer-based in every school. For example, in my school, we only have one laboratory. So what we did is that we organized different sessions. So one day, one class, another day, another class, and so on and so forth. For example, for my students with cognitive disabilities, I prepared a standardized test, a personalized test. I decided that she wasn't able to take the exam, but she took it anyway with a computer. So probably, yes, they will be all computer-based. There's another question which is the same as the one before. Okay, is it possible to do a computer-based Invalsi test before spring? Well, I think that there are lots of books. I also wrote one, which have the CD, or even you can download the ebook from the internet, and you can actually take computer-based mock exams before the official exams. So yes. And then, I don't know, but I mean, you've just seen the official task we have been talking about. You can use these and you could submit these official tasks to them. I think restricted time is the weakest point in Invalsi exam, don't you? Well, actually, I calculated it while I was preparing this webinar, and I think that there is enough time, above all for the reading part, there is enough time. If you calculate actually 5 tasks, they have 90 minutes. So if, as I said before, they are good at working under pressure and they're able to time themselves, and so you can work on this during these months, I think the time is not a weak point, actually. or you can make it a strong point if they become good at organizing their time effectively. But don't be worried about that. I think that if you dedicate 15 minutes of every lesson or one lesson per week to the Invalsi English exam, and then you give them homework because they need to internalize things that you deal with in class, well, I think that we'll be able to do the exam to take the exam without any problems. Don't worry. I mean, we're everybody with you, so don't worry. Okay. How can ASEAN students take advantage of 15 minutes more if the listening is over? Can they listen to it once more? The students with specific learning disabilities, well, with special educational needs in general, will have a third of extra listening time for each task. So they will listen to each task 3 times, while the rest of the class will listen to it only twice. So I think that's enough. That can be enough, and you could train your students in order for that to be enough. Okay. Shall we ever be given any list of the different topics to practice with our students? Well, I think that this is a tricky question. Well, if you Google level B1 vocabulary and level B2 vocabulary, you will find 2 different things. Okay, so the vocabulary you can work on for level B1 and the vocabulary you can work on for level B2. And as for the different topics, I think that it's better if you cover as many topics as possible. So cover unpredictable topics, make them get them used to dealing with different topics, even strange topics, it doesn't matter. But the most important thing is that they don't go blank before the exam. So you can start with everyday topic, I don't know, like school, gap year, and then change topics with something more difficult, like, I don't know, what happens in Ethiopia? Do you know something about the oil palm in Indonesia? Did you look at the videos? What's happening in Mexico with the border? So current affairs, okay? And then you could even focus on stories, invent stories, take excerpts from books and work on them. So cover as many topics as possible, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Do you think we should ask our students to buy a book in preparation for Invalsi? Well, it could be a good idea because on the internet you won't find as many Invalsi mock exams as you could find in a book. So probably, yes, if you're afraid about the money, you could even ask them to buy one book in pairs, and they can share it. I do that in my class, for example. But yeah, definitely, I would work on different books and on books which deal with the preparation for the Invalsi. And you could also use preparation for the PAT, the IELTS that you can find online, so you can cover different exams as well. I think it's more similar to FIRST than to IELTS, but actually there are some tasks which are similar to IELTS too. So yes, let me just scroll down here. Okay. When would you start to train them? Right away, immediately. Start tonight. Text your students, write emails to them, get ready from tomorrow onwards. We will be studying for the Invalsi exam. As I said before, you can dedicate 15 minutes of each lesson, or you can dedicate 1 lesson per week, but make sure they get familiar with this exam. Because as I said before, and some of you agreed with me, they can be very good at English, but if they don't rehearse, well, their performance can be disappointing, but this is for everybody. I mean, if you don't perform well, if you don't train, your performance won't be excellent. I really enjoyed your session. Thank you. Yes, I know that you only have 3 lessons a week. I do have 3 lessons a week like you. Yes, I know that you have to study to teach literature and history of art in the 5th year. What you could do is that you could use literature, for example, take some passage from literature and do some close exercises, work on synonyms on that, make them read the text, give them 5 minutes to read the text, and then they must be able to retain the information and retell the story. Also, this means paraphrasing concepts. I know, guys, I know we've got very little time and we've got many things to do. And I know that you're worried, because I'm worried too. We've got really too many topics to cover, and time is always insufficient. But don't worry, because it's the same for everybody. We do our best. And I think the most important thing is that you are a good teacher and that your students feel at ease with you and like the English language. That's the most important thing. What about the monolingual dictionary? We're running out of time, so this is my last question. What about the monolingual dictionary if we have people with a very poor own vocabulary? Use it anyway, because they must get used to using it. You can start making them work in pairs or in groups. Do not underestimate the value of teamwork. Teamwork is fundamental. Unity is a strength. And also, okay, one student has very poor vocabulary, but maybe you have other pupils who have a more solid preparation. So place them together. Peer learning is fundamental. Tutoring is fundamental. When pupils are asked to do things for their peers, they are much more motivated than doing that for the teacher. So don't worry about that, but start with the monolingual dictionary. I'm not saying that they have to break their backs with those heavy tomes, but at least the digital one, at least the digital dictionary, they should get used to using it. They can use word reference. I think it's a good dictionary. I don't know if you agree with me. And then insist that whatever you deal with in class is then internalized at home. We've run out of time, so I think, yes, okay. So I think I have to say goodbye to you. And fingers crossed for our Invalsi English exam. If you have any further queries, I think you can email Mondadori and ask some more questions. I'll be happy to answer you. And so thanks for being here with me. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.